What We Think About Reading by James and Reuben.
At Edmund Waller School, Lewisham, Class 6B are in their second year with the Power of Reading project.
Our favourite books.
Over the last week or so, they've been creating presentations to share with each other, just to create a discussion, really, a forum for them to identify why they like reading.
I think I enjoy it because getting lost in a book is sort of like visiting another country. If you don't get lost in the book, then all you're doing basically is just reading all these words. They just get lost in your head and you don't really remember what the book's about.
There's books that you read and then it just gets boring in the middle and then you just want to stop and do something else.
There's more to reading than the technical skills. The Centre for Literacy in Primary Education wants to help children enjoy the stories inside books.
There had been a number of reports that children's skills apparently were higher, but their enjoyment of reading was declining in relation to other comparable countries. It's quite a broad project, the Power of Reading, and it's got many different dimensions.
The project supports teachers with activities, lesson plans and book lists to attract all children to reading.
Stop there for a second. So a book gives you a new way of looking at life, somebody else's life. You do have a very different mix in here of different attitudes and experiences. So for them to hear each other talking about reading as their choice of books, their likes and dislikes, the children who already enjoy reading, it gives them an opportunity to consolidate their ideas about why they value reading. And for the children who are not in the habit of reading or have not yet discovered the pleasures of reading, for them it gives them an opportunity to hear that their peers are gaining pleasure from this experience and that maybe it's worth reading and to pick up a book. So,
Fairy's gonna make a gingerbread house. I don't like how...
Are you talking about fairy tales?
And fantasy.
I don't mind reading fairy tales like Cinderella and all them. And in the fantasies it's all about love and...
Would you like to write your own fantasy book?
No.
Children enjoy book talk, but teachers need to feel there's time for it.
And Hannah, you both seem really enthusiastic about
Teachers have so much to do in way of planning and record keeping. So things like reading and getting to know lots of children's books is the last thing that they have time for.
They just think it's a waste of time. What would you say to those people? When I was training as a teacher, definitely there was this feeling very much that we had to get through the National Literacy Strategy and tick all the right boxes, and sometimes the pace was so quick that there wouldn't be time to actually have a discussion about books and reading. If you were trying to convince them to start reading, what would you say to them?
Ask them to read the first few chapters.
The Power of Reading course is giving permission. It's saying this is a good way of working and this is valuable, and really putting reading at the centre of all our language learning, which makes absolute sense, you know.
What I do to see for a good book is I would look at the blurb to see what the book's about and stuff. One
boy was saying that he still preferred picture books, and somebody who was a lot further along the line of developing their reading ability was saying that, well, we produce these pictures in our own minds when we read.
For some reason I just like picture books better, and I like coloured books because it looks brighter. I get what Ziggy's saying, but sometimes you do have to see what the book is like, because it might be better than a picture book. It might be something that you'd really enjoy.
There is a minority in the class who find reading quite tedious, boring. If you ask them what their interests are, it's playing in the street with their friends, maybe playing a game or watching a computer game or watching a film, something which is easily accessible to them. And reading, historically, for them, has been something which is a chore they've not enjoyed. To reach those children, they're the challenges, is the purpose of what we're trying to do.
Now the class are going to use drama to start exploring a new book together.
There is so much within the book, and in fact it's a dynamic relationship. They're reading, they discover things, they're inventing, they're being creative as they read, and the drama allows them to physicalise this process.
They're going to listen to chapter 1, then act out some key scenes.
Everything you hear and the ideas and feelings you gain from me reading this are things I'm going to ask you to inform your drama. The first chapter is called Meeting. Yes, said Tom bluntly.
Goodnight, Mr. Tom is set during World War II. Willie's been evacuated and finds the countryside and his host, Mr. Tom, a bit frightening.
The boy was thin and sickly looking, pale with limp sandy hair and dull grey eyes. His name's Willie, said the woman.
It was quite a long chapter and quite challenging in terms of the words used and the sentence structures, and a lot for children to listen to. But the reading aloud part is critical.
He knelt on one of the chairs at the front window and peered out. Graves didn't look scary as she had made out, even though he knew he was surrounded by dead bodies.
The combination of a good teacher and a good book being read aloud is almost irresistible to any children.
Children's graves, probably. He was sitting on Elizabeth Thatcher when he heard voices.
Reading aloud is going to pull children into the book in a way that hardly anything else can.
A loud, sharp barking suddenly disturbed the silence. The squirrel leapt and disappeared. Willie sprang to his feet. A small black and white collie ran around the tree and into the leaves. It stopped in front of him. And there were moments where significant issues which I knew we were going to raise during the drama, I raised those issues to discuss them, just to clarify they understood them, and also in a way to sow the seeds of their understanding so that could flourish when we came back to the drama later. Just go back over that line a moment. Now, just you shut your old mouth, he whispered firmly. There's someone asleep. What do you think's happening to Tom? Yes?
Tom is feeling like he's his child, that he is responsible for him anyway.
Yes, Ruben.
He didn't really know what to expect.
Hold these ideas in your head because we're going to use them soon. OK, we're going to move straight on to the drama.
Literacy and books are not just something that you have to sit and listen to, but you can do things and you can get up out of your seat and you can act it out and you can use your body and as well as your mind and your voice. All of these ideas and principles were brought forward into the current project.
Yeah. Good, OK. All the people number 2, you are evacuees. The billeting officer has walked you up the road, you've come to the house. All people number 1, this side, you are the hosts. The pair work in a line was meant to be a very accessible, immediate response. So before getting into the more in-depth analysis and response to the text, I wanted to give them an opportunity to straight away get up and explore or express how they felt those characters would have responded. And we're going to quickly go down the line and hear each of your statements. 1 minute. It wasn't particularly demanding or exposing for them to do that. It wasn't like I was isolating 2 children and asking them to do it for everybody else. So they were all involved. A very short exercise just to get them up and moving around after they've been sitting down, and then extend the length of the exercises and what you expect them to achieve within that time.
I want a good working boy. I try and be a good working boy.
I hope you can help me out with the shop.
Don't be afraid of that damn dog. He's only friendly. His name is Cassie.
But he was jumping up and down.
I then split the chapter into 6 areas. Through the drama, we then looked at what they thought happened to Willie before he arrived and what might happen to him afterwards. I'm going to give you an envelope, and in the envelope will be a description of the scene that I want you to explore. We took it through chronological order, really.
Improvisation in the middle. Okay. Improvisation.
So the boys who did the arrival, they put themselves into the roles of the billeting officer and Tom.
The children are making tableaux, or frozen images, of key moments in the chapter, putting themselves physically into the story.
I am the billeting officer.
Billeting officer? Who's this?
Willie.
Willie?
Billeting officer's son.
Your son? Billeting officer's son and?
Tom.
Tom. The graveyard and the dog, when he was left on his own, he went out to the graveyard. He's scared by a squirrel.
Who wants to be the squirrel? Alvin's the dog and I'm the boy.
Just as he's recovering, a dog runs around the corner and starts barking at him, and his mother has told him that dogs will kill him, so there's a very dramatic scene. What was Willie doing at the beginning of the scene?
Well, when they're walking past the graveyard.
So what were you doing at that point? The character who was Willie was quite a lot more confident than Willie himself. It's not loyal to the text, but it's definitely showing that he is having a reaction. He's putting himself in the shoes and empathising with Willie, and this is how he would respond. Where are you going to finish?
The finish is when the dog comes.
Yeah. And what was Willie doing at that point?
When he gets the stick like that.
So that's your final frozen image. Practice those 2 points. So we had the barking dog, the growling, we had the wind. So they really created the environment and the scene and brought all those different elements in. Who are the rest of you then?
Then he's the grave that I sit on.
he wakes up the next day, goes downstairs or something, he has breakfast.
And then we concluded by asking them to predict what happens next, which is something you often do with a story at the end of a chapter, but for them to be able to explore that through drama and show that, it gives them a bit more ownership of that next stage and brings it to life. So show me your frozen images. Where's the first one?
Okay.
So number one, what's this?
Tom's giving Willie his breakfast.
Tom's giving Willie his breakfast, okay? Then the girls decided, quite intuitively I would say, that the next day Willie was going to get bullied. He was a victim.
We're the bullies and we're bullying him.
He's going to get bullied?
Yeah.
He was weak, he was fearful, and that this would be picked up on by the local children who would bully him. And the teacher didn't seem to notice that he was getting bullied. Who are you? Teacher? Shows their understanding of human nature, great insights, and show that they've really engaged with the ideas of the text and drawn their own conclusions about the next chapter. What you need to think about, girls, is your faces. And the reason I added that last piece on the sort of predictive part was that then when they do read the next chapter and the story does begin to evolve, they've already set down their own understanding or prediction of what will happen, and as the story unfolds they'll be more interested to find out what the actual story has in store for them. And the title of your piece was? Life Before Tom. Could you go back to your first? There were fantastic moments in every group's piece. The group that looked at Willie's life before he came to live with Tom decided to dissect the mother's character or personality into 4 parts, and in each of those parts they expressed different aspects of her character, which was such a sophisticated idea, and they pulled it off very well, I thought. Split the mother into 4 characters so you can show the different things that might have happened to Willie. Fantastic. Okay, so the idea was that although this very dogmatic mother was overbearing and scaring this poor little boy, there was also a side to her character where she was longing for him not to go and didn't want him to go and was holding on to him and fearful of for his safety. So that was a very strong piece. Okay, this is an interesting one. So, what are you doing?
She's just fainted.
She's just fainted. Why have you fainted, mate?
Because she's leaving. I'm a very religious mother and telling her to not forget about Jesus.
Fantastic.
I'm just praying.
I don't want her to go, so I'm trying to pull her away.
So fantastic. The next thing with Good Night, Mr. Tom for 6B will be we'll share reading the story. We will write in role. We'll do maybe some other drama techniques, such as hot seating. We will draw pictures, we'll explore the text using a variety of different mediums. So we'll bring the text to life, we'll live through it, we'll talk through it, we'll relate to how the characters respond, elements of those characters that we can see in ourselves.
You get interacted into another world, and it helps you think about what happens to you in real life.
I would say that people that don't read don't really explore.
What we're looking for is for them to empathise with the characters and to live through their lives and come out the other side, which hopefully they'll get if they carry on reading, is come out the other side a richer human being with more knowledge than they ever would do if they just lived their own life and never accessed text.
You should just leave it to the writing, because sometimes the writing actually paints pictures in your head.
If there's like anything like you like to watch on telly and there's like a book of it, read that and see what the difference is.